Apartment 3B, a true story. Look, I need to tell someone about this. I haven't been sleeping and I don't know, maybe saying it out loud will help me process what happened. You have to promise you'll hear me out, okay? Because I know how this is going to sound. So, I moved into apartment 3B last March. It was perfect, you know? Affordable rent, decent neighborhood, close to work. Third floor of this old brick building, the kind built in the 70s with those narrow hallways and carpeting that's probably older than I am. My routine was simple. I'm a creature of habit, always have been. Get home around 6, make dinner, watch something mindless on Netflix. Maybe read for a bit, then lights out by 11. Boring, but it worked for me. For the first 2 months, everything was fine, great actually. Quiet neighbors, no drama. The guy below me in 2B was some kind of night shift worker, so I barely saw him. The couple across the hall kept to themselves. And 4B? The apartment directly above me. Empty. Had been for a while, according to the landlord when I signed the lease. Something about the previous tenant breaking their lease early. I didn't think much of it. The first time I heard it was a Tuesday night. I remember because I'd just finished this terrible work presentation, and I was finally falling asleep. And then, thud, thud, thud. Heavy footsteps, walking back and forth, back and forth. I checked my phone, 2:47 a.m. I sat up in bed, listening. The footsteps went from what would have been the living room down the hallway, then back again. Steady, deliberate, pacing. Not like someone getting up to use the bathroom or grab water. This was purposeful, like someone measuring out the length of the apartment, over and over. I figured, okay, maybe they finally rented out 4B. The landlord probably forgot to mention it. I was annoyed, sure. I mean, who paces at 2:47 in the morning? But I put in earplugs and eventually fell back asleep. Except it happened again the next night. Same time, 2:47 a.m. exactly. Those same heavy, deliberate footsteps pacing the exact same route. I could hear every step, could practically map out where they were above me. Living room, hallway, living room, hallway. For about 20 minutes, then silence. By the third night, I was getting seriously annoyed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a reasonable person, but this was ridiculous. So the next morning, I went upstairs to introduce myself to my new neighbor, and maybe, politely, mention the noise. Here's where it gets weird. I knocked on the door to 4B. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I tried the handle, locked, obviously. I stood there for a minute, feeling stupid, then headed back downstairs. Maybe they worked early mornings or something. That afternoon, I ran into my landlord, Mr. Chen, in the lobby. Nice guy, older. Been managing the building for like 20 years. Hey, Mr. Chen, I said. I think someone moved into 4B. I've been hearing footsteps at night. He looked at me, confused. 4B? No, still vacant. Haven't found a tenant yet. I felt this weird flutter in my stomach. Are you sure? Because I've been hearing someone walking around up there the last 3 nights. He shook his head definitively. Must be the pipes or the building settling. These old buildings, they make noise. No one's been in 4B for 3 months now. 3 months. I tried to accept that explanation. I really did. Old buildings make noise. That's just a fact, right? Maybe it was the radiator. Maybe it was something with the plumbing. Buildings settle, pipes clank, rats scurry around in the walls. There had to be a rational explanation. But rats don't walk with heavy human footsteps. And buildings don't settle at exactly 2:47 a.m. every single night. because that's what it became. Every night, 2:47 on the dot, those footsteps would start, pacing that same route, living room to hallway, hallway to living room, back and forth, sometimes for 15 minutes, sometimes for a full hour. I started dreading going to bed. I'd lie there, watching the clock on my phone. 2:45, 2:46, and then, right on schedule. Thud, thud, thud. Week 2, I tried recording it on my phone, held it up toward the ceiling, volume maxed, but when I played it back the next morning, it was just muffled thumps. Nothing that would convince anyone of anything. It sounded like it could have been anything. I mentioned it to Rachel across the hall. She gave me this sympathetic look, like I was losing it. "I haven't heard anything," she said, "but I'm a really heavy sleeper. You should try a white noise machine." Week 3. The footsteps got more aggressive. Not louder exactly, but angrier. Like whoever, or whatever, was pacing up there was agitated about something. And then I started hearing other sounds. Scraping, like furniture being dragged across the floor. And once, what sounded like something being dropped. Something heavy that made my ceiling light fixture sway. I called Mr. Chen again. "Look, I know you said 4B is empty, but something is going on up there. Can you please just check it out?" He sounded irritated, said he'd swing by when he had time. I don't think he ever did. By week 4, I wasn't sleeping. I was exhausted, jumpy, downing coffee all day just to function at work. My boss asked if I was okay. I didn't know what to tell her. That I was being haunted by footsteps? That something was living in the empty apartment above me? Then came last Thursday night. The night everything changed. I was lying in bed, couldn't sleep, obviously, and the footsteps started right on time. But this time, there was something else. A dragging sound, long and slow, like someone pulling something heavy across the floor. It went on for several minutes, and then I heard it. A sound like wood, splintering, cracking. And I realized they were pulling up the floorboards. Something was prying up the floorboards, directly above my bedroom. I sat up, my heart absolutely hammering in my chest. I could hear it clearly now, the creak of wood bending, the crack as nails pulled free. And then, nothing. Complete silence, not even the footsteps. I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I pulled up Mr. Chen's number, but I couldn't make myself call. What would I even say? I sat there in the dark for maybe 10 minutes, just listening, waiting for something else to happen. Then I heard it. A faint sound, like breathing, heavy, raspy breathing. It was coming from my ceiling, from the hole they'd made in the floorboards. Something was up there, looking down, into my bedroom. I want you to understand, I've never been so terrified in my entire life. Every instinct was screaming at me to run, but I was frozen, literally couldn't move. I just stared up at my ceiling in the darkness, listening to that awful breathing. Finally, I forced myself to move. I grabbed my flashlight from the nightstand, one of those heavy mag lights, and I got out of bed as quietly as I could. I didn't turn on any lights. I grabbed my keys and my phone, and I went out into the hallway. I should have left, should have gone to my car, driven to a hotel, called the police from anywhere but there. But I was so exhausted, so sick of being afraid, that I just snapped. I needed to know. I needed to see what was up there. I took the stairs up to the 4th floor. The hallway was dimly lit by those flickering fluorescent lights that are in every old building. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. No sounds from any of the apartments. When I got to 4B, I stopped. The door was slightly open, just a crack, maybe an inch or two. I could see darkness beyond it. I stood there for what felt like forever, just staring at that gap. And then I smelled it, this thick, rotten smell seeping out from inside, like meat that had gone bad, like decay. Hello? My voice came out as a whisper. Is someone in there? Nothing. No response. No movement. I pushed the door open a little wider with my foot. The hinges creaked, this long, drawn-out sound that made my skin crawl. I raised the flashlight and shined it inside. The apartment was empty. No furniture, no belongings, nothing. Just bare walls and that old carpet. My flashlight beam swept across the living room, and I could see footprints in the dust. Lots of them. Pacing back and forth, just like I'd been hearing. Living room to hallway. Hallway to living room. But there was something else. In the corner of the living room, there was this nest, I guess you'd call it. A pile of old blankets and clothes. Fast food wrappers scattered around. A sleeping bag. Someone had been living there. I stepped inside, even though everything in my body was telling me not to. The smell was worse inside, that rot smell mixed with something else. Sweat and filth and something chemical I couldn't identify. I moved the flashlight beam toward the hallway. More footprints in the dust. I followed them, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The bedroom. The bedroom directly above mine. That's where the smell was coming from. I pushed open the door. The floorboards. Someone had pried up a section of the floorboards, just like I'd heard. It was a hole about 2 feet across. And when I shined my flashlight down into it, I could see straight down into my apartment, into my bedroom. There were scratch marks around the edges, like it had been worked on over time, slowly, methodically. And arranged around the hole, photos, dozens of them, printed out pictures of the building, of the parking lot, of people coming and going, and photos of me getting my mail, me coming home from work, me through my bedroom window. There was a notebook, too, filled with writing, times, dates, notes. Subject leaves for work 7:15 a.m. Subject returns 6:20 p.m. Subject sleeps approximately 11 p.m. Pages and pages of this. Someone had been watching me, documenting me, for weeks. I felt bile rise in my throat. I backed away from the hole, and that's when my flashlight caught something else. In the corner. A pile of, I don't even know how to describe it, clothes maybe. But wet, dark, the source of that awful smell. I didn't wait to investigate further. I ran. I ran out of that apartment down the stairs, and I didn't stop until I was in my car with the doors locked. I called 911. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone. I live in apartment 3B at the Riverside Complex on Morrison Street, and there's someone in the apartment above me. It's supposed to be vacant, but someone's been living there, and they've been watching me, and... Okay, sir, slow down. You're saying someone has broken into an apartment in your building? Yes, 4B. They've been there for weeks, I think. They pulled up the floorboards, and they've been watching me sleep and taking pictures. Are they currently in the apartment? I looked up at the building. The lights were still off in 4B. I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't see anyone, but their stuff is there. Okay, stay in your vehicle. We're sending officers now. They arrived maybe 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars. I met the officers in the parking lot and told them everything. I could tell they were skeptical at first, probably thought I was paranoid or on something, but I insisted they check it out. I waited in the lobby while they went upstairs. It felt like hours, but it was probably only 15 minutes. When they came back down, their expressions had changed. They looked serious, disturbed. "Mr. Hayes," one of them said, Officer Ramirez according to her name tag, "we need to ask you some questions. But first, I need you to know that you're safe now, okay? We've secured the apartment. Was someone there? Did you find them?" She exchanged a glance with her partner. "No one was in the apartment when we arrived, but we found everything you described. The nest, the notebooks, the photos, and we found something else." My stomach dropped. "What?" "There's evidence that whoever was staying there had access to the building's maintenance areas. There are passages in the walls, crawl spaces. We think they've been moving through the building. We're bringing in more units to search the premises." I felt like I was going to be sick. "How long? How long were they there?" "Based on what we found, we estimate several weeks, possibly longer. There's quite a bit of documentation." They asked me more questions, whether I'd noticed anyone suspicious, whether anything had been taken from my apartment, whether I'd felt unsafe before this. I answered as best I could, but I was numb. In shock, I think. Then Officer Ramirez said something that I'll never forget. "Mr. Hayes, when we were examining the hole in the floor, there were grooves worn into the floorboards around the edges. Deep grooves, like someone had been lying there, frequently, for extended periods of time." She paused. "We think whoever was there was watching you sleep, every night, for weeks." I moved out the next day. Didn't even pack properly, just threw everything into boxes and hired movers for the next morning. Broke my lease, lost my deposit. Didn't care. Mr. Chen tried to convince me to stay, said the police were handling it, that whoever it was wouldn't come back. But I couldn't. I couldn't sleep in that apartment knowing someone had been watching me through my ceiling, lying there in the darkness above me, just watching. The police never found who it was. They have theories. Evidence suggested it might have been a former tenant who never returned their keys, or someone who knew the building's layout. They found DNA evidence, but nothing matched in any database. Whoever it was, they were a ghost, and they knew exactly how to stay that way. I'm in a new place now, 5th floor of a building with security cameras and a doorman. I still wake up at 2:47 a.m. sometimes, just wake up automatically. And I lie there in the silence, listening. Sometimes I wonder if they found me again, if they're watching me right now, if that feeling I get sometimes, that crawling sensation on the back of my neck like someone's staring at me, if that's real. The worst part? The police told me something else, something I haven't told anyone until now. They found my apartment key in 4B, a copy of my key, hidden in the sleeping bag. Whoever was up there, they could have come down whenever they wanted. They had access to my apartment the entire time. They were watching me through the floor. But they could have been standing right next to my bed. I don't know which is worse, what actually happened, or knowing that it could have been so much worse, that for weeks I was completely at their mercy, and I had no idea. So yeah, that's why I don't live in the Riverside complex anymore. That's why I sleep with my lights on sometimes. And that's why I needed to tell someone this story. Because I need someone else to know it's real. That it happened. That somewhere out there, someone was obsessed enough with me to live in squalor, in darkness, in an abandoned apartment, just to watch me sleep. And I still don't know why.